Hello everyone, I'm Shubhangi Singh, a third year student of Bennett University, currently pursuing BTech. In this video, we will be discussing the topic of brain fingerprinting. Brain fingerprinting is based on the finding that the brain generates a unique wave pattern when a person encounters a familiar stimulus. The use of functional magnetic resonance imaging in lie detection derives from the studies suggesting that persons asked to lie show different patterns of brain activity than they do when being truthful.
We're going to show you a new kind of technology. I guess you could call it a new kind of lie detector test. Revolutionary technology.
Which in the near future may become a potent weapon in the war against terror.
And we can tell if they're an FBI agent. We can tell if they're a terrorist. We can tell if they've committed a crime. It sounds as if, well, maybe we're reading minds or something of that nature.
It uses brain waves instead of physical cues like pulse and breathing rate.
The new technology called brain fingerprinting claims to be able to see the truth locked inside his memory.
In the field of criminology, a new lie detector has been developed in the United States of America. This is called brain fingerprinting. This invention is supposed to be the best lie detector available to date, and it is said to detect even smooth criminals who pass the polygraph test, which is the conventional lie detector test, with ease. The new method employs brain waves, which are useful in detecting whether the person subjected to the test remembers finer details of the crime. Even if the person willingly suppresses the necessary information, the brain wave is sure to trap him. According to experts who are very excited about the new kid on the block, issues related to the use of such evidence in courts are discussed. The conclusion remains that neither approach is currently supported by enough data regarding its accuracy in detection and deception to warrant use in case. Brain fingerprinting is designed to determine whether an individual recognizes specific information related to an event or activity by measuring electrical brainwave responses to words, phrases, or pictures represented on a computer screen. The technique can be applied only in situations when investigators have a sufficient amount of specific information about an event or activity that would be known only to the perpetrator and investigator. In this respect, brain fingerprinting is considered a type of guilty knowledge test where the guilty party is expected to react strongly to the relevant detail of the event or activity. Existing procedures, such as the polygraph procedure for assessing the validity of a suspect's guilty knowledge, rely on the measurement of autonomic arousal, palm sweating, and heart rate, while brain fingerprinting measures the electrical brain activity via a fitted headband containing special sensors. Brain fingerprinting is said to be more accurate in detecting guilty knowledge, distinct from the false positives of traditional polygraph methods, but this is only disputed by specialized researchers. The person to be tested wears a special headband with electronic sensors that measure the electroencephalography from several locations on the scalp. In order to calibrate the brain fingerprinting system, the testee is presented with a series of relevant stimuli, words and pictures, and a series of relevant stimuli, words and pictures. The test subject's brain response to these two different types of stimuli allows the tester to determine if the measured brain responses to test stimuli, called probes, are more similar to the relevant or irrelevant responses. The technique uses the well-known fact that an electrical signal known as P300 is emitted from an individual's brain approximately 300 milliseconds after it is confirmed with a stimulus of a specific significance. Example, a rare versus a common stimulus, or a stimulus the proband is asked to count. The novel interpretation in brain fingerprinting is to look for P300 as a response to stimuli related to the crime in question. Example, a murder weapon or a victim's face. Because it is based on EEG signals, the system does not require the testee to issue verbal responses to questions or stimuli. Brain fingerprinting uses cognitive brain responses. Brain fingerprinting does not depend on the emotion of the subject, nor is it affected by the emotional responses of them. Brain fingerprinting is fundamentally different from the polygraph, which measures emotional based physiology signals such as heart rate, sweating, and blood pressure. Also, unlike polygraph testing, it does not attempt to determine whether or not the subject is lying or telling the truth. In fingerprinting and DNA fingerprinting, evidence recognized and collected at the crime scene and preserved properly until a suspect is apprehended is scientifically compared with evidence on the person of the suspect to detect a match that would place the suspect at the crime scene. Farewell brain fingerprinting works similarly, except that the evidence collected both at the crime scene and on the person of the suspect, that is, in the brain as revealed by electrical brain responses, is informational evidence rather than physical evidence. There are 4 stages to the farewell brain fingerprinting, which are similar to the steps in fingerprinting and DNA fingerprinting. The first is brain fingerprinting crime scene evidence collection. The second is brain fingerprinting brain evidence collection. The third would be brain fingerprinting computer evidence analysis. And the fourth is brain fingerprinting scientific result. In the crime scene evidence collection, an expert in Farwell brain fingerprinting examines the crime scene and other evidence connected with the crime to identify details of the crime that would only be known to the perpetrator. The expert then conducts the brain evidence collection in order to determine whether or not the evidence from the crime scene matches the evidence stored in the brain of the suspect. In the computer evidence analysis, the Farwell brain fingerprinting system makes a mathematical determination as to whether or not the specific evidence is stored in the brain and computes statistical confidence for that determination. This determination and statistical confidence constitute the scientific result of Farwell brain fingerprinting. Either information present, the details of the crime scene are stored in the brain of the suspect, or information absent, the details of the crime scene are not stored in the brain of the suspect. Throughout the history of the criminal justice system, numerous technologies, innovations have signaled landmark changes in how authorities conduct investigations. From fingerprinting to DNA testing, these one-time technological marvels turned police investigation staples have shaped the way that justice is conceptualized in America and in other places, as well as the way in which society interacts and is influenced by law enforcement. Conventional fingerprinting and DNA match physical evidence from a crime scene with evidence on the person of the perpetrator. Similarly, brain fingerprinting matches information, evidence from the crime scene with evidence stored in the brain. Fingerprints and DNA are only available in 1% of the crimes. The brain is always there, planning, executing, and recording the suspect's brain actions. Fingerprinting has nothing to do with lie detection. Rather, it is a scientific way to determine if someone has committed a specific crime or other act. No questions are asked and no answers are given during the Farwell brain fingerprinting. As with DNA and fingerprints, the results are the same whether the person has lied or told the truth at any time. The admissibility of brain fingerprinting in court has not been yet established. The following established features of brain fingerprinting, however, will be relevant when the question of admissibility is tested in court. The first is brain fingerprinting has been thoroughly and scientifically tested. Second, the theory and application of brain fingerprinting have been subject to peer review and publication. Third would be that the rate of error is extremely low, virtually non-existent, and clear standards, government scientific techniques of the operation of the technology have been established and published. Also, the theory and practice of brain fingerprinting have gained general acceptance in the relevant scientific community, and brain fingerprinting is non-invasive and it is also non-testimonial. Record of 100% accuracy. At the time of this first application, Dr. Farwell's successes in the scientific laboratory with his invention were already well known. In collaboration with FBI scientist Dr. Drew Richards, Dr. Farwell achieved 100% accuracy in using Farwell brain fingerprinting to identify FBI agents based on their brain responses to words and phrases only an FBI agent would recognize. Tests conducted by Dr. Farwell for the US Navy in collaboration with Navy LCDR Rene S. Hernandez, PhD, also resulted in 100% accurate results. In research on contract with the US government intelligence agency, Farwell brain fingerprinting achieved 100% accuracy in proving the presence or absence of a wide variety of evidence stored in the brain of individuals involved in over 120 cases. Dr. Farwell has published extensively in the scientific literature and presented his research to many scientific and technical audiences throughout the world. Farwell brain fingerprinting has been subjected to rigorous peer review under US government sponsorship and has been found scientifically viable as well as revolutionary in its implications. Now let us watch a video to understand this topic further.
A revolutionary new technology called brain fingerprinting that has caught the interest of both the CIA and the FBI. It's the creation of Dr. Larry Farwell, a scientist from Iowa, who says that by analyzing the brain waves of a criminal suspect, he can tell whether or not that individual has committed a crime. Brain fingerprinting, what is it, Dr. Farwell?
Brain fingerprinting is a scientific technique for determining whether certain information is stored in the brain or not by measuring brain waves.
Farwell says that when the human brain recognizes important information, it triggers a specific electrical signal called a murmur that can be measured and analyzed. The suspect sits in front of a computer wearing a headband equipped with special sensors. Words and pictures flash briefly on the screen. Some of those words and pictures are relevant to the crime, say for example the name or the photograph of the victim or a photo of the murder weapon.
If he committed the crime, then his brain says, aha.
Dr. Farwell's research has been funded by the CIA, which has given him more than $1 million. And the FBI is also interested in brain fingerprinting.
Brain fingerprinting has been applied in a number of actual criminal cases. The first one was the J.B. Grinder case. He was the prime suspect in a murder for 15 years. They never had quite enough evidence to convict him. I conducted a brain fingerprinting test on J.B. Grinder. I found that he clearly had the details of the murder of Julie Helton 15 years ago.
Republican Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa has asked the General Accounting Office to study Farwell's technology to see if it should be federally funded.
The brain never lies. If that information is stored in the brain, when that comes up in the screen, he'll recognize it, whether he's an honest person or not, whether he wants to or not.
Let us discuss the ways that brain fingerprinting is put to application. First would be criminal justice. A criminal task of the criminal justice system is to determine who has committed a crime. The key difference between a guilty party and an innocent party is that the perpetrator of the crime has a record of the crime stored inside the brain and the innocent suspect does not. Second application is counterterrorism. It can aid in determining who has participated in terrorist acts directly or indirectly. Along with that, it also aids in identifying trained terrorists with the potential to commit future terrorist acts, even if they are in a sleeper cell and have not been active for years. Third one is in the medical field. Brain fingerprinting is the patented technology that can measure objectively for the first time how memory and cognitive functioning of Alzheimer's sufferers are affected by medications. First generation tests have proven to be more accurate than any other routinely used tests.
Criminal investigation isn't the only area that can benefit from brain fingerprinting. Because the technology gauges recognition in the brain, it can be used to test for mental disorders like Alzheimer's. The Alzheimer's test uses the same principles as used for convicting criminals. The machine is looking for signs of brain activity. Diana is quizzed on her reaction to simple common phrases and facts, which she should know. The machine measures her response time, and can tell in an instant if the brain is suffering memory loss.
So, in conclusion, brain fingerprinting is a revolutionary new scientific technology for solving crimes, identifying perpetrators, and exonerating innocent suspects with a record of 100% accuracy in research with US government agencies, actual criminal cases, and other applications. The technology fulfills an urgent need for governments, law enforcement agencies, corporations, investigators, crime victims, and falsely accused innocent suspects. And with this, we reach the end of this seminar. Thank you.